We look at the division, someone has to win it. According to our metrics, Washington and Dallas still have that chance. Philadelphia is the favorite with a 45% chance to take it all. And frankly, if you watch all these teams play, you might say the Giants are playing better than anyone else in the division right now. So here's the question I want to ask as we get set for today's games. Let's not talk about this season, where we know someone will win the division. Let's talk about which of these teams, Dominique, as you look at them, the way they're constructed, which one gets really good first? Which of those four teams is the first to become a true contender?
Well, I mean, I'd love to say Joe Judge and the Giants because I love Joe Judge. He makes me laugh. It feels like he thinks he's in a football movie, but it doesn't seem like they have the roster necessarily to build off of that. And they do have probably the most promising quarterback in the division right now, considering that Dak is injured and Dak is the best, but maybe Daniel Jones is the most promising. But I'm going to go with Washington. I think what Washington has there is some young talent on defense and a defensive line that you can build around. That's what I'm looking for, is looking for something that you can build around. And I'm not sure that any of the teams, maybe the Cowboys have some talent that you can build around, but the Cowboys are perpetually underachieving, and nothing to me suggests that they're going to change that. So I'm going to go with Washington, in part because of that D-line, and in part because, who knows, I live here, so might as well pick the home team.
Seems as good a reason as any. What do you think, D. Wood? Who's the next team of the, look, that's a legendary division, heritage franchises. Which is the next one that is really the goods?
Well, Dominique alluded to him. I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants. And when you look at the job that Joe Judge has done, he's coaching up this team. And they don't have the personnel right now. But you look at them on defense, they're playing really well on defense. Heck, they got one of the better defenses in the National Football League. Daniel Jones seems like he's starting to make plays, take better care of the football. I think the key for them is just continuing to add to that personnel and bringing up that talent base and getting Saquon Barkley back. That will be huge for the New York Football Giants. I like the direction they're going.
Yeah, Nick, to use your analogy, Joe Judge would be in that rarest of rarities. He's coaching in a good football movie, of which there are very few, and he's doing it well. Shefty, as you, again, there is no more exciting television than Shefty checking his phone. So if you have anything of significance there, by all means, share it. Otherwise, you hear the conversation, looking at team salary caps and all that. Which one do you think is the next one to climb up near the top of the mountain?
Well, I look at this division right now, Green, and I say that the winner this year will have the worst record of any division winner in NFL history. Mm-hmm. The previous worst was 7-9 when the Seahawks won it with Matthew Hasselbeck as their quarterback. We are looking at this year. I think 6 wins will wind up winning this division. Which of these teams is going to rise up from the ashes? They've all been at alternate times awful, and nobody's been consistent. It is difficult to predict. I can make a case for each one of them as to why they would win it, and I can make a case as to each one why they wouldn't win it. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I just know that we've never seen a division like this, and I think 6 wins gets it done in the end.
You know what? I will have to leave the conversation with this, Dominique. It has to be said that the Philadelphia Eagles are in the best position to win the division for one reason and one reason only, and that is because a tie is better than a loss. And I don't care if Ryan Clark yells at me, and I don't care if Rex Ryan yells at me, and Dan
we have time to have this conversation?
I'm right. Nick.
When do we have time to have this conversation? Because I understand your point. I don't completely disagree with you. However, maybe the reason why they only have 3 wins is because the culture and tone that they set by not trying to win in that moment has set them back. I'd much rather lose that game and feel like we are a team that is shooting for the stars, trying to win, than kind of get a tie and maybe back my way in the playoffs to get my head bust for an extra week in the playoffs. Like, to me, that's the argument against it. I don't completely think you're wrong, but the argument that they were making is that it is bad culturally to set that tone culturally. You can't argue that the culture of any team, including the Eagles right now, is that of a winning organization, and that might have contributed to it.
Okay, sure. I'm sure that was the reason that Carson Wentz floated that pick 6 at the very beginning of the game the other day. Okay, as we continue, besides roasting a turkey today, Damien Woody is planning to roast one NFL. We have tons of football to get to. There are 2 games that will be played on this Thanksgiving Day, and we have these gentlemen to talk about them and more. Dominique is here. Damien Woody is here. Bart Scott is here. But we begin this hour, for those of you just joining us, with very significant breaking news about the game that will not be played today. The Ravens and Steelers were scheduled to play tonight. That game has been postponed to Sunday, and I suppose now, Adam Schefter, we have to say Sunday feels in jeopardy. For those who were just joining us, Shefty, at the top of the hour, Let's go over all that we have learned today from Baltimore.
There were not four more tests. There were more positive tests in Baltimore, Greeny. It's the fourth straight day that there have been positive tests in Baltimore as the Ravens struggled to contain the outbreak with the number of players growing by the day. There have been 7 players that had tested positive. This would be the 8th player at the very least. There have been staffers that have tested positive. And last night the team announced that it was disciplining a person on its staff who it believes contributed to the spread of this virus that continues to grow. So now we've seen the game move from tonight, a primetime slot against the Steelers, to Sunday afternoon, 1:15. Whether that game gets played right now is anybody's guess, but it's fair to say that it is tentatively scheduled for Sunday at 1:15 because the league had pushed back that game and it had said all along that the game tonight, the status remained unchanged. And the status always remains unchanged until it is changed. And they had to change it, and who knows, they may have to change the status of Sunday's game at 1:15. More positive tests in Baltimore for a 4th straight day, Greeny.
So that is the big headline here. We should point out a few logistical issues. Again, the game has been moved to Sunday. The Ravens also, as of now, have a game scheduled next Thursday. They're supposed to play the Dallas Cowboys next Thursday in a game where neither team would have an advantage in rest because both of them were supposed to play on this Thanksgiving. So, Shefty, that's another factor that goes into this as far as figuring out when the Ravens, they couldn't delay this a day, I guess is what I'm saying. They couldn't push this back to Monday, you wouldn't think, since they're supposed to play Thursday.
No, that is absolutely correct. Again, and when the NFL set this schedule, you would think that there would be no issues with the Dallas Cowboys, who are in a fight for the playoffs, playing the Baltimore Ravens, who are in the fight for the playoffs, being that both played on Thanksgiving Day, but only one of them is now playing on Thanksgiving Day. And so already it affects the balance next week and how that plays out. But again, Greeny, this is 2020. This is the way it works. Not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to be right. Not everything is going to be fair. The goal is to just try to get through the schedule. And so at this point in time, the question is, can they play the game on Sunday with the Ravens and the Steelers? And I think right now it's fair to wonder whether they'll be able to do that. If it continues to spread in Baltimore, they won't. They will not be able to play that game. If they can get under control from this point on, yes, the game will go on. Whether that's going to happen, nobody knows right now.
Well, Ali, I want to stay here a minute because I think we should get into then what would happen in the event. Shefty, we're in a different place on the calendar and the schedule now than we were week 3, week 4, when we saw these things happen with New England. We saw them happen with Tennessee. We're now at a place where teams don't have bye weeks. They don't really have any wiggle room. So in the event they can't play Sunday, and by all means, if whatever it is you're looking at on your phone is significant, just tell us. But if they can't play Sunday, then what happens? Then all of a sudden we have a game that hasn't been played between 2 playoff contenders. What are the contingencies?
Well, Greeny, it's interesting. You're asking me this right now, right? The news is coming in. We've never been in a season with a pandemic. We've never been in a season of pandemic where we get into week 11 or 12 and this is happening. We've never been at a point in Thanksgiving where they're moving the game. So you're asking for answers that, frankly, are just not available right now. We can all wonder and speculate. And I think it's fair to wonder. I think my first thought would be that there are going to be games this year in cases like this where there's a chance they just won't be played, period. That they will not be made up. Now, again, the league has introduced other ideas and thoughts. It could always add on a week 18 and push back the Super Bowl. It could wind up forfeiting a game. We haven't seen a team do that yet. There are any number of scenarios. The league has talked about adding an 8th playoff team in each conference where basically the top seed would lose the bye in the first week and each team would go on. How it shakes out, nobody can say right now because we've never been in a situation like this to know how it's going to work. I guess my thought is we've seen that the league, which has done a great job handling this by and large, is determined to push forward and play these games. So if you lose a game off the calendar, maybe the playoffs are based on win percentage. Maybe they add on that eighth playoff team. Again, it's unfolding in real time. There's no basis, no precedent for which we can base this upon. We're trying to figure it out as we go along, as is the NFL.
Absolutely. And just throwing one other thing into the mix, and let me bring the rest of the crew in here for reaction. Again, I've got Dominique and I've got Bart Scott and I've got D Wood with us here. The Steelers are an unbeaten team, and I would just throw that into the conversation. The idea of a team with the opportunity to go 16-0, which only one team has ever done before, and no team has ever gone 19-0, and now they're staring at the possibility, again, we should underline that word, possibility, that they will only wind up playing 15 games. Dominique, you're listening to all of this.
Yeah.